Welcome to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I don't have the high-pitched voice like Mike Luke, but we're here today. And as always, it's a Bear Down Friday, right? Everybody's got to wear that red and blue. If you're not wearing your loyalty shirt, I don't know what's wrong with you. We also have the loyalty shirt out in the PHNX locker, a different version than this one. Obviously, this one's Nike, but the other one is just as good. So go check it out at gophnx.com. Become a diehard, obviously. We've talked about it a million times. Be a part of our Discord. It's fantastic. It's a good time. We do a bunch of events. We do a bunch of stuff. So, become a part of this community, and it's going to be a fantastic time. So anyway, I am Saul Bookman, your host today. I am solo because Mike is off gallivanting around the west coast of the country. I think he's going up to Tahoe. It's his annual retreat to Tahoe. I believe he goes with his parents, and then they actually have a pretty nice little setup right there on the water. Like, he's spoiled. He's spoiled as all hell. You guys think that? I know sometimes you guys look at Mike and you're guys, how fancy is he? Mike is a lot more fancy than you'd think. He's a very unique individual, as you all know, but that's why we love him, right? So anyway, we got a lot to get into today. We're going to talk mostly about Arizona athletics, but I'm also down to just have an open conversation, a little Q&A back and forth with everybody in the chat. Andy, I see you in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us today, and everybody else that's in here. Let's go. Let's have a good time. I wanted to talk straight off the bat about Arizona athletics and their pursuit of excellence in every sport. If you look around the three major sports, because obviously we don't have a hockey team, so we're not going to throw them in there. But the three major sports plus you can say four if you want to include the WNBA. Arizona has had 16 players drafted or signed with NFL, Major League Baseball, WNBA, and NBA teams, which is fantastic, right? 16. In addition to that, they have 14 that are going to compete or a part of the Olympics in some way, like Steve Kerr's part of that equation because he's the head coach for Team USA. And then you have two others that are still on the verge and could qualify to make it to the Olympics as well. So 16 altogether that could be competing in Paris, which is fantastic. And just to give you a little, maybe measuring us against others, right? Let's compare us to ASU. ASU actually has 22 athletes that are going to compete in the Olympics. A lot of golfers, a lot of water polo, which is a sport that Arizona does not offer. But when you're talking about the other four, no WNBA draft picks, no NBA draft picks. They had, I think, one NFL draft pick, and then they had 4 MLB draft picks. So Arizona competing on a variety of different levels at a very high level in athletics and continue to develop this program, which is something you got to give Dave Hickey a lot of credit for. And even before him, Greg Byrne, because Greg Byrne's the one that hired Adia Barnes. Dave Hickey got in here, and obviously he hired Chip Hale. And then, as everything has kind of moved forward, a lot of changes has happened. Obviously, Tommy Lloyd being a part of the equation as well, and continuing that pipeline of Arizona athletes. But then football, Jed Fish. Listen, as much as we might not like how he left, he did set up this program with more suitable athletes to compete at a very, very high level. And I think what he did here was tremendous. He set him up for success, and he moved on. And now it's up to Brett Brennan to take the athletes that he has and are currently getting, especially from the state of Texas and in Big 12 country, as they continue to land recruit after recruit and develop that pipeline to go to the NFL, because that's what players are gunning for. So that's why, obviously they were able to convince a guy like Takario Davis to stick around. Jonas Avenea is here, T-Mac. And then who knows with Noah Fafita, if he's going to be able to find a way to get into an NFL roster. Obviously, the height concerns are always going to be there, but Noah's such a good, smart talent. I do wonder if he will get an opportunity to thrive at that level. So a lot of promising things in athletics as they move forward. But, we always talk about those major sports, but if you look around the landscape of college athletics, you've got to look at Arizona and say, you know what, as a complete whole, they're doing a very, very good job of setting up their programs to be very, very elite programs. And they've been highly successful. And, if you look at golf, Jim Anderson and the golf program has elevated. They've come a long way since I was even there. At first, they were kind of struggling. They were kind of at the bottom of the Pac-12, and now they're competing for conference championships. They have individuals that have won championships as well, and they've won other tournaments, and they compete last year they were very close to winning a national championship on the men's side. Women's side, they've been fantastic. And Laura Ionello, obviously, she departed and went to Texas to take over that program. But Coach Derek back in the day, that was alongside her as well when they won the national championship. I think it was back in 2017. Haley Moore was part of that team. They were fantastic all the way around. So again, a variety of different levels. Softball, trying to get it back to that dominant relevance again. Oklahoma's been, obviously they've had a stranglehold on that for the last 4 in a row now, which is an amazing feat right there. But as they try to get their footing back and recruit high level talent again, you got to really like where Arizona is overall. Just very pleased with the state of athletics. I didn't go back and look at the history in terms of winning percentages, but overall, I would argue that this is probably one of the most successful years of seasons in sports that Arizona has had overall. Both basketball teams winning records, football team winning record, baseball team winning record, baseball team winning the conference, football team damn near right there, Alamo Bowl appearance, big season, basketball right there. You could have argued they should have won the conference tournament, but they won the regular season championship outright. And then women's basketball, always competitive, always right there. Even despite the fact that they didn't have like the superstars this year that, I know Coach Adia Barnes is trying to get to elevate them to another level, but they were competitive. They got to the second round of the NCAA tournament. Like these are promising things. Softball, continuing to grind and get into the tournament as well. Just not able to get to the Women's College World Series, just like baseball, but eventually they'll crack through. They'll get back. Both programs, I'm highly confident of that. I actually like what Chip Hale has done. And I know a lot of people are kind of, skeptical about the future, but Chip Hale has proved that he can recruit at least good enough to get you a conference championship. And now we go to the Big 12 and we're going to see how that all flips and see, what these other schools are going to provide in terms of resistance, but you got to like where they're at. So overall, I think they've done a tremendous job. But Desiree Francois is going to have her hands full in trying to make sure that the level of competitiveness is at a high level. And one of her things has always been being able to make sure that they're financially responsible. And I know that's a big worry for some people, probably more for ASU people in terms of what we're doing with our money than anybody else. But that's another story. And you got to like that she has that eye on things while also understanding that you have to remain competitive in order to build up your program. And that's going to take money as well. So the way college athletics is kind of changing, I do wonder, what kind of, agility is she going to be able to prove that they have in order to take advantage of situations. Yesterday, we talked about private equity with Brett Yormark and his perspective on that. How much is that going to play a part in really elevating the status of this entire athletics program, mainly football and basketball, because those are the big two that everybody really focuses on. But obviously with the rise of women's sports, the WNBA, highly successful, there's going to be pressure on Adia Barnes to make sure that the women's basketball program is just as calculated and as successful as the men's program. I think we're past the days where, you'd have Nia Butts and a 4-win Arizona basketball team barely able to get 200 to 300 people in the arena versus Sean Miller and sellout crowds and a top 10 team in the country. I think now those are starting to even out a little bit more, and both can carry the weight because we've seen big crowds for Arizona women's basketball under Adia Barnes. And I think we're going to continue to see that because I think people are bought into what she's doing and the program she's built. I know that she caught a lot of flack for the way she's built the program and a lot of the influx of transfers, that were kind of just leaving. But I think there's always a rhyme and a reason to this. And I think part of this is not only her adjustment in terms of coaching, but her adjustment in terms of how to approach players. And I think everything I've ever seen from Coach Barnes behind the scenes, there's nothing ever that I've seen that I was just like, ooh, that's a red flag, right? I've always thought that she's run her program pretty clean. Now she might be tough. She might tell kids that things that they don't want to hear, and maybe there's a little bit of a learning curve and an adjustment, and sometimes you have to cushion the blow a little bit more than maybe you had done in the past. And I think Adia Barnes may have learned that. Not sure if that's even the case. Maybe it was just a case of, hey, we're going to go try and find X player, and we're going to try and find somebody that can compete and be a little bit more consistent at a high level to replace or at least compete with you. And maybe a said player didn't like to hear that, so they wanted to bounce. Hey, it's their prerogative. It's all good. At the end of the day, are the Arizona Wildcats still competitive? They are in basketball in both sides. They are across the board in a lot of different respects, and that's something to be encouraged about. You can also be encouraged about joining the inner circle over at Circle K. Circle K has always been fantastic to us and will continue to be fantastic to us. All you have to do is download the Inner Circle app, and you can get yourself hooked up with all the goods, 5 free drinks, 25 cents off of your first 5 fill-ups per gallon. And then after that, you save about 3 cents right here on the screen. Obviously, you got the Froster, you got the Polar Pop, and that stuff is 79 cents. But if you use the Inner Circle app, it's 69 cents. Nice. There you go. So become a part of the Inner Circle today. Terms and conditions do apply, but make sure you download that app ASAP. Now, as we move on, I wanted to talk about the perspective of football and really developing talent as we move forward. I just mentioned, obviously, that multiple draft picks in this last draft led by Jordan Morgan. But this upcoming draft, there's also multiple prospects. Tacario Davis is one of them, obviously. You looked at Jonas Avenea. You looked at T-Mac, obviously. He's going to be the top one. I'm wondering who else is going to be that guy that's going to step up and put themselves in the spotlight, right? As you're continuing to look at this football program, where are they going to go? Who's really going to be able to make a name for themselves? And I will say this: I don't know if Jacob Manu is going to be able to elevate himself to the point where he is going to be that kind of guy, that prospect. I do know this from a DNA standpoint, 1,000,000%, he's there. Okay. But in the NFL, measurables do matter, especially if you're at the linebacker position. And we saw that with Scooby Wright, right? Scooby was he's a little bit too compact, and teams just decided to veer away from that, even though his effort, his energy, and really his effectiveness could be seen on the field. But for whatever reason, it didn't work out at a variety of different levels in the NFL for him. But he did find other opportunities to be able to compete. He's competed, obviously, in the other leagues, in the USFL, and that's good. That's what you want to see. But for Jacob Manu, where is he going to be able to fit? Where is he going to be able to find himself? I don't know if he's going to be able to be on that level quite yet. And I don't know if he ever will, because he is a shorter guy. And measurable wise, teams are probably going to look the other way. But if you watch him on tape, he's as good as most linebackers in the country. He just is. Is he going to have a 4.2 40? No. Is he going to be able to get from point A to point B and get through the gap and make the play? Yes, he is. And he's shown that. So those are the types of guys that I think, Rich Rod loved to recruit guys like that because he liked those tweener guys that he thought he could develop. And when you're looking at Jacob Manu, he's kind of resemblant of that Rich Rod era, outside of the fact that he is just a dog. He's a fantastic player. I hope he's the type of player that does find his way onto an NFL roster in this coming year. But it's going to be interesting as we move forward. T-Mac obviously is going to be I think he's going to be a top 10, top 15 pick. He's the best wide receiver in the country. I know people are going to try and say Travis Hunter, or they're going to try and say old boy from Missouri, whose name is escaping me. But T-Mac, to me, is the best wide receiver in the country. And if you look at College Football 25, you'll see that play out. I've seen it multiple times already. My sons are playing their own dynasty versions. I'm playing my own dynasty version. So in the house right now, we have 3 dynasty versions. And in all 3 dynasty versions, Arizona has become a top 5 team in the country within the first 6 weeks of the season. And Noah Fafita is on the Heisman list. And T-Mac is leading the country in receptions and receiving yards. So you got to love that, right? Like, you hope that that's what's going to end up playing out in real life. Because this team has certainly got an opportunity to showcase their abilities. That Friday night game against Kansas State, I cannot emphasize enough how important that game is. And then to follow it up with Utah, both of them on the road, is one hell of a back-to-back. But that back-to-back can absolutely make it to where if they win both those games, they're going to be in the top 5 to 10 in the country without a doubt. So I'm optimistic. And no, Palmer, not freshman difficulty. My sons are playing on Heisman level. Listen, I'm not that good. Like I need all the time and I need all the help I can get. So I'm playing at that varsity level. Okay, I'm playing at that varsity level, and I'm trying to rise up with Coastal Carolina. Let's go, Chanticleers. That's where we're at. So. Palmer says in the chat, if we can win one of 2 in weeks 3 and 4, I'll take it. Absolutely. I'll take a 3-1 start, especially with that back-to-back series right there. But if they won both of them, you're going to look at this team as a top 10 team without a doubt. They'll be right there in the conversation for that. Noah and T-Mac will definitely be the headliners of the team at that point nationally. I don't think there's going to be any doubt, and people are going to start to recognize that Arizona is a legit team, and the games are going to be more high profile as you move forward. Think about when you play that space game in Orlando. Guess what? That's probably going to be a primetime game. And things can change a little bit. I think they have a little bit of flexibility in the TV schedules. And I know in the Pac-12, that was one of our major frustrations is what time the game's going to be. Well, now that you're in the Big 12, you can guarantee every single game, for the most part, if it's not at home, will be before 7:00 p.m. at night. You won't see any 8, 9 o'clock kickoffs out here, especially not in Arizona, because, obviously as the time changes, the clocks get set back or whatever. And then, USC, UCLA, and the other California teams were the ones that affected that. Not so much for us in Arizona. So I think we're in a perfect spot to be able to take advantage of this. That Colorado game is going to be a little bit more high profile. I think Colorado's going to, I'm not going to say that they're going to surprise people. I think they're going to be better. I just don't think that they're going to be like world beater better. I think they're going to be like 6-7 win team. I think they'll be bowl eligible this year. I think that. And that game in October is going to be fantastic. It's going to be here. And I'm going to go to that game. I know a lot of you can't wait for that game. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see T-Mac absolutely abuse Travis Hunter like he did last year. Hey, listen, we talked to him at Media Day, and T-Mac said that he felt like he had an average season last year, which should make us all feel really, really good, because that means in his head there's a whole nother level to go, if not more. And I don't know what that's going to look like. And if that does happen this season, holy crap, that's going to be crazy. So I'm excited for that. Palmer also made a point. He said Jed putting it on Utah with 30 seconds left is going to add some fire to that Utah team. Yeah, but Utah has always traditionally played us really, really tough up in Salt Lake City. They've gotten basically the upper hand on us a majority of the time. So they might be a little fired up, but again, I think this is a completely different team. It's a different coaching staff. And I think, for whatever Kyle Whittingham had in his soul for that, I think maybe it dispersed a little bit. I wish I would have thought about that to ask him that. Like, hey, how much do you remember that Arizona game? That would have been a pretty cool question. He probably needed to calm down a little bit after that. So, but hey, listen, he could calm down if he comes back to the Valley or he comes back down to Tucson and grabs a little bit of Four Peaks. Four Peaks is the premier craft brew in the state. You can get it all over the place, especially our friends over at Circle K. They got the Kill Lifter, they got the Peach Ale, they've got the Hop Knot IPA, and they've got the green tea brew, which is fantastic. It's my favorite seasonal drink. Next to Oktoberfest, which they also produce here in about another month. You'll start to see that roll out. It's always exciting to be a part of the Four Peaks family. And if you're ever in town, because I do live up here in the Valley, you should go check out the Four Peaks Pub, because they always have tremendous events. They always have tremendous food going on. They have a seasonal menu that happens all the time, and the food is fantastic. You can't go wrong. All our crew loves the chicken tenders. I I'm tired of talking about chicken tenders. I like their seasonal items because they have some legit chefs in the back that are using not only the freshest of food, but they also use some of the beer and some of the products, which is fantastic. So it all goes hand in hand together. Check them out at Four Peaks Brew on social, on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also check them out by going to fourpeaks.com. All right. But you must be over the age of 21 to enjoy, and you must enjoy it responsibly. Again, this is a truncated version of the show today. And if you have any questions, I'm willing to have a back and forth and talk about whatever it is that you have on your mind. But in the meantime, I did want to talk about the perception of Arizona football and Arizona athletics. Let's talk about the perception nationally of Arizona football. I think nationally, everybody's got this perception that it's a cute story. They got some elite athletes, but let's wait and see, right? And I think that's based off of losing Jedd Fisch and only Jedd Fisch. I don't think it really is attributed to anything else. I think most people think that losing Jedd Fisch is going to set the program back, right? But that is entirely dependent on who the new coach is and how high they perform. And I think Brent Brennan showed you that he can perform at a high level at San Jose State. And as we talked before with Yogi Roth at the Big 12 Media Day, he talked about how difficult it is to do what they had to do over in San Jose, and the way they were able to build that program really high. At points, right? There was ebbs and flows to that, as there's always going to be, because you're not going to be able to get the consistent talent that you need to succeed consistently year in, year out, right? Not in San Jose State, not with those facilities, not in that area. The cost of living is crazy high for students. Like, why would you want to do that? The facilities are borderline high schoolish, okay? They had to invest a lot of money trying to get everything, in order for that. And it just was not the best of situations. And Brent Brennan made it a good situation for any player to go. Not only that, but he also was able to convince a lot of his players to stay despite getting offers from other areas in the country, six-figure deals elsewhere, to play in probably more suitable environments, more suitable facilities. And you got to give him credit. And I think had he been a guy that nobody really, when they first heard him, they didn't respect, I think you would have seen a majority of this roster go. I do, because I think they had a lot of affection for Jedd Fisch. They had a lot of buy-in, but Brent Brennan said what he said, came in here, and he was able to appeal to a large portion of that football team. And I think that is going to make a big difference. The thing that I keep taking away that I think the national media is not considering is these guys feel different. They feel like they're really, really hungry, ready to go. They seem like they're the type of guys that are all bought in. They're all cohesive. They're ready to go. And speaking from personal experience, okay, this is me going back to high school. My freshman, sophomore, and junior year, it felt like our basketball programs from all three levels were just kind of disjointed. There wasn't really a lot of cohesiveness or whatever. But I played with the same group of guys for multiple years. And by the time I got to my senior year, we had all been playing together for 3 or 4 years. And so there was a lot of cohesion there. And that's why we had the best record in school history at that point. We won our first conference championship at that point. We were all bought in together. We all cared about each other. We were all family. We were all hung out. And it was terrific. And I think that's what we have here at U of A. I think that there's a lot of guys that really bond in with each other, and they really like what they bring to the table. And they're going to see that on the field. I think they all care about each other, and we'll see where it goes. I really think the PTSD of having high expectations and falling flat on our face is a real thing in not only at the U of A, but also in all of Arizona sports. Okay. But I really don't want to attribute it to this group because of how much they buy into each other. I go back to 98, 99, or 98, when we had just beat Nebraska in the Holiday Bowl, and we had an 11-1 or 12-1 season. Everything was fantastic. And then the next year we come in, a lot of hype, a lot of we were ready to go. Bobby Wade was on that team. And LeVar Arrington, we started off the season at Penn State. LeVar Arrington and company just absolutely mollywop us. And that was deflating. And we had a terrible season that year, and it wasn't great. I don't feel like that's going to happen. First, we're not starting off with Penn State on the road. Let's be real there. That's going to help. It's going to help ease us in there. But week 3 against Kansas State is no slouch either. That's going to be tough. When Ema and the family signs going back and forth and everybody's got that Wabash cannonball going on. If you don't know it, you'll see it because they all do this shit right here. And so it's a pretty cool experience if you've never been there. Mike and I are going to Manhattan. But again, week 3 is going to set the tone, I think, for the rest of the season, because if they win that game, or at least it's close, it has to be close, and I think it will be close, you're going to see a lot of heads turn about like, man, this team is for real. They're physical. They play hard. They get after it. And that's what I think. And that's what I think is important. Okay, so we got some comments here. Andy Bryan, I think his spin for leaving ticked off the boosters, and they transferred the money for the raise to the players. No, I agree. I absolutely agree. You're not going to get any dismissal from me on that. Sean Lyons, can you guys stop dissing AAU membership? For those of us who are proud of U of A and its academic standing, AAU membership matters. Okay, listen, I am absolutely proud of the fact that the U of A is, highly recognized for its science programs, medical programs. And, I have a tremendous amount of pride in that. And I think that is something that is true. I'm just saying that you don't need an AAU membership to validate that, in my opinion. Now, Shaw, you might feel differently. I don't feel like I'm dissing it. I'm just, and I know Mike and I were talking about this yesterday. I don't feel like we were inherently dissing it. I feel like we were just saying it's not necessary to have that in your cap to be a high-level athletic program, right? The Big Ten is trying to exclude entities or schools from coming to the Big Ten if they don't have an AAU membership. Okay, cool. But I don't think it's necessary. I don't think you need it. It's great to be proud of your academic success and the things that you offer at the school outside of athletics. I'm not saying that it's not. Like that's something that I think is very appealing. But I'm just saying that it's a little unnecessary to have that if you're an athletic program. I don't see why the two have to coincide together, is I guess what I'm saying. And if you have a different explanation as to why you think they should, I would love to hear it, because it's just not something that I think is really valid at this point. So, and to get the bigger schools or some other schools that are that are involved, like the Florida States of the world, do you really care if they have an AAU membership? I don't really think so. And Florida State, I think they probably have some programs that are nationally recognized too, and they're not an AAU member. So you tell me. So Gringo Billy says ASU has membership. They let riffraff in. They did it to themselves. I don't know. I will say this: ASU has a lot of tremendous programs too. I'm not even trying to pump up at ASU at all. You know how much we all have a disdain for ASU. But again, I don't think the AAU thing was meant to be disrespectful and a dismissal of the academics, Shaw. I think it was more of like, I don't feel like it's necessary for us to compete at a high level nationally in sports. That's where I'll stay. So anyway, I wanted to go back because the Olympics are going to start here in about a week and a half, and I'm sure Mike will get to this at some point in the next week or so. But there's a lot of athletes that are competing down out in Paris. It's going to be fantastic. I know a lot of us watch the Olympics because, listen, it's sport, it's country, it's something to be proud of, and it's something, I never watch swimming any other time of the year until we get to the Olympics. Then I'm all locked in. I can't wait for that 400-meter butterfly. Same thing with track and field. Like track and field is probably one of the most impressive things you're ever going to see an individual sprint as fast as these guys do and be labeled the fastest in the world. And it feels like every single Olympics, they're breaking more and more records because of the training and the intensity of it. It's amazing. But you look at the U.S. basketball team, Steve Kerr's leading that. You look at our guy, Chase Budinger, who's going to be playing in the volleyball space, in 2-on-2 volleyball. It's just fun. It's just fun. And when you have your alma mater represented across the board too, that's even better. Palmer Hoffman asking, any PHNX tailgates in Tucson this year? We're working on a few. We're trying to figure out what would be an ideal time. That Colorado game, for those of you who don't know, you better buy tickets. I will say that right now. You better buy tickets right now, because if you don't, I I have firsthand knowledge already that the DMVR Buffs squad, who is going to be traveling the country in a bus, going to every single road game, will be coming here to Tucson with their people, and they're going to try and do a takeover down here in Tucson, and we can't let that shit happen. Come on. We can't let that happen. I know for a fact that they're going to try and buy 25 to 50 tickets and take up a section of the stadium. Whatever. They better be in the nosebleeds. They shouldn't be down low. I think you've got to buy tickets. If you don't have tickets already, go. Please, please, please buy tickets to make sure that they don't do that, because we got to rep the 12 as best we can. Because when you see these other environments and how raucous and how intense they are, we've got to represent as well. And so I'm hoping that everybody's going to go to that game. Maybe that's the first game we will do a takeover for. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do a takeover / tailgate and make it worthwhile for you. And that's one thing that, that's my job here at PHNX, is to make sure that logistically, if we put on an event, you guys have a great time, we have enough involvement, and you feel like you're getting the best value for your money, right? So if I sell you a ticket for $50, you're not only going to get to go to the game, you're also going to be able to hang out with Mike, myself, and any other U of A alums, right, that want to come, or U of A supporters, I should say. It doesn't have to be an alum. And you're also getting, food, drink, and maybe some type of a piece of memorabilia to go along with that, whether it be a towel or a cup or whatever, right? Like, we want something worthwhile for you guys, right? That's what we try to do for everybody. That's what we've done at every single event that we've ever put together. And so we want to make sure that this is a family environment, this is a community environment. We're all here back in the A. And then on top of that, obviously, maybe ASU, the season-ending game. That could be also another opportunity. And who knows, maybe that's for the conference championship, regular season championship outright. Maybe that's for an opportunity to go play in the Big 12 championship. Maybe that's for a CFP berth. Who knows what it's going to be all about. So I'm excited for this season. I think you guys are all excited for this season. It's going to be awesome. Mike will be back next week. And when he comes back, I'll be back on Tuesdays and Thursdays, just like I am regularly. But I will keep you posted in terms of any events that are going to come on. Shaw also had a couple other points. He said, point taken, this is an awesome sports show. Back the A, both AD, and then academics and athletics add value. Yes, 1,000,000% on both accounts. I appreciate you, Shaw, for giving us those 2 cents. Gringo Billy, I'm not going to say that, but yes, they do love wasting gas money. And listen, if that's what they want to do, I don't understand why they think they're going to come to our house and beat us when we beat them last year with, I would say, a lesser team to some degree. I think we're better this year than we were last year, and I think you're going to see that. But I do think Colorado will be much improved than they were last year, so we'll see. Outside of that, I appreciate you all. This is a truncated version, nice short little synopsis version of the AZ Wildcats podcast. I had nobody to talk to except for you guys in the chat, and I do appreciate you all chiming in. Mike is in the chat. He's probably in the middle of nowhere trying to get to Tahoe. Hope you enjoy your time off. Palmer Hoffman, do you know if Dino was the play caller last year at Syracuse? I'm actually do not know that or not. I'm not familiar. I don't know if he was a play caller. I want to say he was. He was the head coach. I would assume that he was a play caller because most offensive coaches like to be the ones that are calling the plays. So I would be shocked if he wasn't that guy. But anyway, everybody give a shout out to Mike Luke. He's got a couple days off. We much deserved time off, but he will be back on Monday, streaming live, probably from the lake or lakeside or who knows where. Hopefully his internet connection is solid. Other than that, if he's not, then I will be back and I will have a guest. I had 18,000 asks out there, and every single person was either on vacation or they had a prior commitment. It just folded. I almost got, Parker Jackson Cartwright was going to be on the show, but he couldn't make it in the last minute because he had a couple of things that popped up for his team. We had, a couple other guys in the U of A community that were going to pop up. Corey Williams is going to come on, but he had a conflict. It's just a bunch of stuff that had just happened. And it's okay. I was ready to go solo. AZ Cats G, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thanks for hanging out with us, Saul. Guys, anytime. I love you guys. I back the A all day. I love everything about the red and blue. I'm so excited for this season. Appreciate Mike giving me the opportunity to be able to go solo today. But for Mike Luke, who's not here, I am merely Saul_Bookman. You can follow me on Twitter there and also on Instagram. You can check out my IG. It's pretty fire. Probably not. And you can follow the show at AZ Wildcats, PHNX_Wildcats, I should say. Until next time, bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.